Today's episode is brought to you by the Positively Productive Toolkit, a collection of workbooks that guide you through self-discovery and self-awareness. These self-guided workbooks, which include links to assessments, can be completed in minutes. Request this free resource and others at the positivelyproductive.com/resources page. Your brain is wired for pattern recognition and for story. If we can name a block of time in a way that resonates with us, that makes us smile or laugh or brings a sense of comfort or reassurance, we feel encouraged to achieve something within that time. And we give ourselves the flexibility to fill it in a way that works for us. And then that allows us to be more successful more often. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm so glad you're making the time to join me today because blocking time for what's important is today's topic. If you've ever tried to do traditional time blocking and felt frustrated, or if you've resisted it outright, you will appreciate this conversation today. And if time blocking felt like just another system that you couldn't stick to, I think this episode will be just the thing for you. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings or problems with time blocking is that we see it as this rigid and potentially boring technique that has to be done a specific way. This happens so much with productivity techniques. They feel, because of their nature of being very structured, they tend to lean toward this way of doing things that doesn't have flexibility. And that's not so. I want to show you that time blocking can actually be playful, freeing, and most importantly, designed just for you. Even if you're someone who resists structure in general, even if you're overwhelmed, dealing with burnout, struggling to find the energy to do the things, time blocking can still work for you. This episode is all about how to make it fun and flexible, and more importantly, how to make it work for you, for your unique life and your brain. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to Lauren Yee, whose episodes inspire today's topic. Lauren joined me on episode 124 for a strategy session where we brainstormed how to block her week out like a school schedule. So strategy sessions, which you can find on the podcast page of the positivelyproductive.com website. You can find a playlist for strategy calls. Those are where I am coaching someone and we record it for you to listen to. So Lauren joined me with this idea. She wanted to block out her week like a school schedule, and we called it school-style time blocking. And it was such a fun and refreshing take, and it really fit Lauren's dedication to include play in all she does. She is a cultivator of curiosity. That is her phrase that she uses, and she's very much about play and making things fun. And this fit perfectly for that. So she had the idea, and I coached her through the idea to make sure that it would match her plan and her style together. And so this way it would work for her as an extrovert and a questioner. We then followed up in episode 125 to see how it was going for her because I'm a sucker for a Where Are They Now episode. And I think it's really important to report back and check in when you try something new and to be realistic. Now, spoiler alert, it actually did work, but not perfectly. It didn't work because it was perfect. There were things to adjust, but it worked because it fit her. It was sustainable and it allowed her to keep pushing through. She made it meaningful and playful, and that made all the difference. This idea of using themes is something I bring into all my coaching sessions and my own life as well. I find it to be very effective. In episode 245, I shared why this strategy can work so well and the steps to take to create your own. Now, today, I wanted to revisit all of these conversations through the lens of fun and flexibility. I think that's the key focus here because our brains respond so well to that. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about our tendency to avoid tasks, and one of the biggest reasons we do is the perception of boredom. Our brains will avoid what is boring to us. So how do we change that? Through flexibility and fun. We have the same issue with time blocking, right? Anything that's structured can have that appearance of being boring. So when we bring play and personality into the mix, that helps us embrace it more readily. And the more that we embrace something, the more likely we are to have success with it. Let's start with time blocking basics. Time blocking at its core is simply assigning blocks of your day to specific tasks or a type of work. It helps you focus in a variety of ways. By assigning blocks of time, you reduce decision fatigue and that analysis paralysis that can happen with not knowing what to do next. It helps you by protecting your time, otherwise known as creating boundaries, because you have a block of time that you're going to focus on something, and that means there's lots of other things that you're not going to focus on during that time. It's the what you say yes to, what you say no to parameters. And time blocking can also help you by batching tasks, which can be an efficient way to approach your time. When you do similar tasks together, it helps you with your energy management. Time blocking has a lot going for it, which is why it's one of the most popular techniques mentioned in time management tips. But for many of us, especially those with high demands and or low energy, it can feel like this rigid set of rules that discounts the very limitations that we struggle with. This happens with all kinds of time management techniques. And I can remember when I was a caregiver sandwiched between caring for my mother who had Alzheimer's and my children in the infant and toddler stages, how I felt about all this. I was exhausted on my feet and trying to juggle way more than was reasonable. And I got angry at the advice to block out time for specific things in a specific, consistent way. I'm not saying it didn't work. We know that for many people this does. We know there's a reason this is recommended. But it really frustrated me. How dare they say to pick a time every morning or every evening to do a thing when they don't know what I'm dealing with? What if my mom was sundowning and suddenly I had to clean up broken glass in her room? What if my kids didn't nap that day? And that happened a lot. What if, even if all the stars aligned and I had the time, once I got to that point, I didn't have the energy? And that still happens a lot. That basic advice discounted all that I went through, and I was so frustrated for myself and then for others who would go through the same thing I did. I realized I couldn't rely on that assignment-style time management approach. I know it worked for others, but it didn't work for me. Instead, I needed something more flexible and fluid, where I was building in the flexibility and not just forced to be flexible when something didn't go right, which unfortunately brings along all this shame and guilt with it. So I began for myself what I now call flex blocking. It was a game changer. I could still get the benefits of time blocking, but in a way that worked for me and my limitations and my preferences. Shifting the approach makes all the difference. Instead of saying, you must do this thing at 9 a.m. every day, instead you're saying, okay, how can I make space for what matters? Could include this thing in a way that feels good, in a time that works for me, right? That kind of gentle consideration and that shift, it really changes the game and is far more effective. This is the magic of compassionate productivity. When we bring creativity, curiosity, and personality into the process, Time blocking no longer feels punishing and so strict. It can feel more like a playground. Your brain is wired for pattern recognition and for story. If we can name a block of time in a way that resonates with us, that makes us smile or laugh or brings a sense of comfort or reassurance, we feel encouraged to achieve something within that time. And we give ourselves the flexibility to fill it in a way that works for us. And then that allows us to be more successful more often. When you feel all of that, right? What I just described to you feels so encouraging. Here's a fun block of time named in a way that kind of like tickles the brain, and you have these flexible options of what to do with it. You're far more likely to follow through on taking action. And every time you can encourage yourself to take action, you're more likely to be successful. That's what Lauren did for her school-style time blocking. She divided her week using familiar school terms like recess, study hall, gym, and suddenly her schedule felt less like this corporate to-do list and more like a rhythm she could remember and enjoy. It even tapped into a little bit of nostalgia for her. So if school wasn't fun for you, maybe this is not the right idea. But the point is, she used something that really resonated with her. She remembered having this structure built for her, but in a fun way, and she thought, why not try it? And it worked. It was speaking her brain's language. And this isn't just anecdotal for her. Neuroscience backs up this approach. When we associate certain times or routines with positive emotions or symbols, we trigger the brain's reward system. And that helps reinforce habits and it reduces internal resistance. That's what we're trying to do here, right? Less resistance, more positivity, more likely that we're going to do the thing. So naming your content planning time creative collab or calling your admin prep time power hour, isn't just creative and fun, it's effective. I've noticed that the strategy of flex blocking works especially well for my rebels and questioners. This is based on Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies. I outline the 4 tendencies in the context of productivity in episode 181, if you're curious about that. And as a reminder, rebels resist outer expectations and inner expectations. It's a you can't make me and I can't make me kind of situation. So traditional scheduling is often very much a struggle for them. It feels like a trap. But when they choose their own labels, assign their own meaning, they're really given a lot of flexibility. They can reclaim control, and that's what makes the follow through more likely. Now, questioners, on the other hand, and I am one, so I know this well, are the make it make sense people. They need internal logic and purpose. And as long as the approach satisfies those inner expectations, answers all the questions, makes sense for them, they can move ahead and make it happen. This is likely why theming makes so much sense for them. For example, naming a weekly time block for business goals, Mission Monday, is going to be open and flexible and also, with the name, trigger the meaning part for the questioner. And that's going to make them show up differently because they know what the purpose is for this time. They're really feeling it. If it makes sense internally, their internal expectations are met, questioners are going to make it happen. So you can really work with your mind as a questioner if you name things in the right way, if you give yourself options and flexibility. So with all of this, the key here is getting past the resistance and triggering the receptive part of your brain that wants you to push through and take action. Even if you don't know your tendency, we all benefit from a more compassionate approach to scheduling. And that's what flexible time blocking is. Now, if you would like to know your tendency, I welcome you to request the Positively Productive Toolkit. It has an assessments workbook inside with links to all the quizzes that I use with clients, and the 4 tendencies is one of the first that we have you do. Plus, once you do request this workbook and all the rest of the workbooks in the toolkit, you'll receive follow-up email support, after which we can have a conversation if you want, and I can help you explore all aspects of your personality and what that means for your productivity approach. But let's start with the 4 Tendencies quiz, which you can find in the assessments workbook, and you can go to positivelyproductive.com/toolkit to request the toolkit for free. And then once you take the assessment, I would love to know what your results are. Are you a questioner like me? Are you a rebel, an upholder, an obliger? It doesn't matter what your tendency is. There's a way for you to approach productivity in a way that works for you. And knowing that is a great starting point. So once you find out, be sure to reply to the email where you received it or DM me on social media. I would love to know. Okay, how do you get started with this flexible and fun approach? First, begin with a review. Look at your week ahead and ask, what roles am I playing right now? What tasks or projects need attention? What appointments do I have going on? What do I want more of out of life? Or what do I need to be working on that I'm not getting to? Ask yourself these questions as you plan your week ahead. And while you're welcome to answer these questions each week, and sometimes that can be helpful, especially if you have a lot going on in your life and so you need to prioritize differently more frequently, you could also answer these questions and create a flexible structure for a longer term, like 6 weeks, and then try it out during that time. That can be really helpful when you're trying a new approach to give yourself sort of one type of structure and try it for a while. Whatever feels best to you right now is the way you want to do this. Once you know what's on your plate, you're very clear, you have your lists, and you know what you're doing. Now you want to start grouping those activities into categories or themes. And these could be functional, like administrative or client work or chores. It could also be based on energy levels, like having time blocks for low focus tasks or deep work. Then it's time to get even more creative. Have fun giving them names that speak to you. And feel free to group them in ways that make sense. You don't have to group things in just a standard batching kind of way. That's why the energy-based group can be really good sometimes. It can be different types of tasks, but they're all tasks that are low energy for a low energy time. So as you start to name that time block, you can go with traditional names like Marketing Monday or Follow Up Friday. You can do something silly like Brainstorm Bonanza for a time block midweek when you want to get ready for the next week. You could have a time that feels cozy and less pressured, like tea and tasks, or probably coffee and come on, let's go for me. Or something energy based like Down and Dirty, which that just makes me giggle, but that could be where you do anything at the most basic level. The kinder way to put it would be doing something by half. You know what I'm getting at, right? It's like, this does not have to be perfect. You are just getting it done. Or maybe you could do something like Low and Slow for a time block where you're having a flare up day or you're on your cycle or you haven't been sleeping well. Maybe you've been sick and you still want to chip away at things, but you need to allow yourself that time to go at a pace that works for you. You can have time blocks that you place in ahead of time that are pretty consistent, that happen every week, or ones that you have at the ready when you need them. If you struggle to manage your energy, as many of my clients do who have ADHD and chronic illnesses, you'll want to build in flexibility by creating modular blocks that can be moved around or paused. As a matter of fact, even when that isn't the case, I enjoy that flexibility of saying, where do I want to put this block this week? That can be great when you have something going on in your schedule, like I'll have something going on with my kids and I want to be present for that, and I'll be able to move a time block to another day. And it makes it so easy to be flexible with what matters to me. So when you expect this to happen, to move the time block around and not like, oh, you have to scramble and adjust because it's not working, but rather you're proactively moving it. It makes it so much easier, and it also is so much lighter on you. There isn't that guilt and that shame like, oh, something went wrong, but rather I'm intentionally moving this to make it work for me. Do you feel the difference even in that mindset energy? And as many of my caregiver clients will tell you, actually all of my clients will tell you, I suggest creating recharge self-care blocks as well, in addition to the work ones. Having ones that are dedicated for that kind of time, it's the best way to make sure that resting and recharging is a priority and not an afterthought. Now, another way to have fun with time blocking and theming is by using color coding or symbols too. You can do this with all kinds of planners. Print planners, bullet journals, digital calendars too have wonderful color coding options. I use colors for the people in my world and the types of activities, especially for my calendar specifically. So, for example, I know when I don't see enough lavender in my calendar, which is the color I use for my personal self-care, I need to bring more of that in. It's a good, quick, and simple visual reminder. You could also relate the color blocks to your energy and that idea of having time blocks related to high and low energy tasks. For example, blue blocks could be low or light energy tasks. Red could be for high focus type tasks. A yellow could be for play or creative or self-care. This visual cue keeps it simple and not only gives you permission to flow with how you're feeling each day, it shows you the kind of balance that you have in your week. So it can be a great reminder of whether or not you're on track with the harmony that you're seeking. So these are just some ideas for you to start making time blocking more flexible and fun. I recommend thinking about what we chatted about today and picking one aspect, like the fun naming or the colors, or having the blocks ready where you just set them in each week in a way that feels good for you. One of those things. Try that and then add on as you go. If it feels good and that feels easy, add on the next thing and adjust. I didn't get to the really fancy color blocking approach to my calendar that I have now right away. I started very simply. Now, one thing about this whole approach, though, that I encourage that is kind of necessary for this approach is the planning ahead part. That's a must. But that's as simple as sitting down and thinking about what you need to get done, what is definitely on your schedule already, and how you can put together that puzzle in a way that feels good for you. From there, it's a matter of trying it out, changing what doesn't work, and celebrating what does. Keep working at it because it's worth it. When you create a time blocking system that uses personalization and play, you increase your chances of success. You're aligning with your values and your brain's natural rhythms. And that means positive results. If you've tried time blocking before and it didn't work, I encourage you to try it again. But this time, do it in the way we talked about. Make it fun. Make it yours. I've added the episodes I mentioned in the show notes if you want to listen to them for inspiration. They are a fun listen. Lauren is a delight, so you'll definitely want to listen to hers. And if you're ready to build a schedule with flexibility, fun, and something that's really, truly functional for you, that fits your life and helps you more quickly achieve your goals, I'd love to support you. Head to positivelyproductive.com/coaching to check out the coaching options and schedule a free chat with me. We can create a productivity plan that will include all the fun and encouragement that you hear on this podcast. And if you're not quite ready to meet, I'm always happy to chat. When you request the productivity toolkit, simply reply to the emails and you'll hear from me personally. And if you catch me online on any of the social media platforms, I will reply to you personally as well. And that's it for today. Until next episode, keep planning your days your way. And I'll be here cheering you on. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.